One. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for Using Technology to Cope with Uncertain Times, a Personal Journey. My name is Victoria Spillman, and I'm the Customer Marketing Manager here at Upkeep. Before we get started, I'd like to get some housekeeping out of the way. We are recording this session, and you'll receive a link to that recording either later today or early next week. So feel free to forward that to those that missed today's presentation. And if you have questions during the presentation, enter those questions in the question box found on the right-hand side of your screen. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Ismail El-Sharif is Upkeep's SVP of Product and Engineering. He spends his time looking for ways to deliver value to Upkeep customers and the marketplace. Prior to Upkeep, Ish was head of customer products at Ticketmaster and executive director of open platforms at Edmunds. Ish is a frequent speaker, avid cyclist, and enthusiastic surfer. It is my pleasure to introduce Ish. Take it away.
Thank you, Victoria. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for hopping on this call with us. Before I start, I would love to share a story that I think is apropos of the moment that we're in right now. And it's an ancient parable. It's an ancient parable about a farmer who had a horse, and one day he lost his horse. And when that happened, his neighbors came over and said, "Wow, that's really bad. What bad luck." And the farmer just looked at them and said, "Good or bad, it's hard to say." Days later, the horse came back with 7 wild horses in tow. And when the neighbors saw that, they came over and said, "Wow, what great luck. This is amazing. You know, you got now 7 more horses, in addition to your lost horse that was your only horse that you had." The farmer just looked at them and said, "Good or bad, it's really hard to say." The next day, the farmer's son hopped on one of the wild horses and got thrown off and broke both his arms and legs. The neighbors came over when they saw that and said, "Wow, what terrible luck. This is really, really bad." Again, the farmer looked at them and shrugged and said, "Good or bad, it really is hard to say." Months later, an army came knocking on doors, trying to draft people for a war. They looked at the farmer's son, his broken arms, broken legs, and they just passed him by. Neighbors came over and said, "Wow, what great luck. This is amazing. Good or bad, this is definitely good. It's not bad at all." Again, the farmer looked at them and said, "Good or bad, it's hard to say." And the reason this is a great story, especially at the times that we're living in, is that it's an ancient story. I've heard that many, many times growing up. I remember my mom always used to say, you go to the shop and you try to buy something, and if you can't buy it, or if it's not there when you want to buy it, you never know. It's good. It might have been bad for you if you would have bought it. And I always use that kind of mindset throughout my life. I got my dream job. Good or bad, hard to say. Did not get my dream job. Good or bad, hard to say. I got my dream house that I was able to afford, and now I'm finally in it. Good or bad, hard to say. Did not get my dream house because the deal fell through. Good or bad, it's hard to say. And the reason this is really important is because as human beings, we tend to wanting to label a situation as good or bad, when in fact our stories are just unfolding, keep unfolding, and a good or a bad situation are basically incomplete stories, and this is not the end. And this is something that happens in every life form, in nature, that happens with the seasons. There are ups and downs, and there's always transitions between them. Similar thing with our lives. The way we go through life is there's good, there's bad, but it's a continuum that we experience, and it's never always. It really isn't an end state. We're never stuck in one of these states. So that was my mindset. Always moved around with it until I had to deal with it head on in the most profound existential way. 3 years ago, I went to bed and I woke up the next day with complete deafness in my right ear. Complete, like I couldn't hear anything in it. I honestly thought I had a stroke, and I freaked out, ran to, literally hopped in my car and drove to the emergency room. And while I was there, I was diagnosed with sudden hearing loss, and they did a ton of exams on me, MRIs, C scans, blood work. They were trying to find out like, what exactly happened to me. And they came back and said, we just couldn't find anything abnormal in your system. You just have to go and deal with an otologist, which is basically a doctor specializing in ear issues. So when I went, that's a picture of me in the ER at Cedars here in LA. Completely shocked. Obviously, it came out of left field, and no one could explain what was going on. When I went to the otologist, they actually ran a hearing test, and they found out that I have profound sudden hearing loss in my right ear. And basically, they said, whatever we do, you're never going to get your hearing back. This is irreversible. It's permanent. And it kind of sent me in a tailspin mentally, trying to figure out how to cope with something like that. This was definitely bad. This is not good or bad, hard to say. This was definitely bad for me. Having one of my faculties that I've taken for granted taken away from me was something that was absolutely, concretely, solidly bad. And I was in a really dark place for a few weeks, and I tried everything. I tried Eastern medicine. I tried Western medicine. I went to the house clinic here in LA with injections, specialized injections that they put in your inner ear, trying to revive the nerves. So I did all of that stuff, and it really looked bleak. Life looked bleak for me because I never in a million years thought I would lose such a fundamental faculty of mine. But that's when this parable of the farmer really came into play. After a while, after days, if not weeks, of me dealing with the grief and anxiety that this sudden life event has caused me, slowly remembering this ancient parable about this is not the end of my life. This is not the end of my story. This is just a milestone along my journey as Ismail, as this human being living on this earth. And that really got me started to realize that, okay, there's got to be something here for me to learn from this experience, or this experience, potentially could put me on a path to becoming a better person. And sure enough, over time, prior to this incident, I wasn't the best active listener, or I wasn't the best listener in the world. And it's incredible how straining to hear the other person got me to become, over time, a much better listener. And I'm not interrupting people anymore. I'm giving people time to finish their sentences and really complete the concept that they're trying to get across. And that helped me become just a better partner in my personal life, a better friend, and of course, a better boss and a better colleague at work. So it all works in a mysterious way, but at the end of the day, realizing that this was not the end of my story, that really, really helped me. So we are living in a time right now where there's a ton of grief, a ton of anxiety because of an event that was unexpected, an event that no one could give us concrete answers on. That's affecting us in so many ways. We are all dealing with grief and anxiety on so many different levels. Anxiety about our job, or about our health, or about our family who's dealing with a situation related to this disease that we're all experiencing. But also grief, if some of us has lost a loved ones, that's grief that we deal with. Losing a job, that's grief. The sense of loss and dealing with that is absolutely overwhelming. And obviously, my personal experience is not at the same intensity as what we're all experiencing right now, but I think there are parables or parallels to it. So what I would like to share is the mindset that we should all think about embodying. And I know during this time, it's like we're all trying to over-index on positivity and over-index and on overachieving. And I think that's all great, but at the same time, if you really think about the parable that that I just shared with you, it really isn't about this untenable feudal optimism, if you will, but it's about realizing that we're humans and that our story is unfolding still. And thinking of these two things, we have to cut ourselves some slack, which will help us with how we deal with grief and how we deal with anxiety as well. So the three main points I would love to share with you guys is changing our mindset to cut ourselves a lot of slack. A lot of slack. I mean, we are going physically, but also emotionally and psychologically through unprecedented times. We've never had to deal with that with a situation like this on a personal level, but also on a communal level and on a global level. So it's really important to cut ourselves some slack and realize that things will get dropped. If you still have a job and you're still engaging with a team, it's important to recognize that things will get dropped, and it's okay. It's okay. People are occupied with literally their survival, or occupied with their mental illness, mental health, and also providing for their families, or dealing with death in the family, or death through proximity with friends and extended family and so forth. There's a lot of pressure and stresses on our psyche. So realizing that things will get dropped in our personal life, in our professional life, is really critical as well. But also always remember the ancient parable of the farmer, that good or bad are basically statements of incomplete stories. What we're looking at right now is a sliver in time. We don't know what's coming down the road. As long as we're breathing, our stories are unfolding. Having said that, I've come up with a list of applications and products that have actually helped you stay healthy, but also stay productive. And I'm not gonna present you with a litany of products to look at, because I think that could also contribute to us being overwhelmed. I actually selected 3 products to help us stay healthy, and 3 other products that help us stay productive. So let's start with health, because I think that's the most important thing. I highly recommend an app out there called Strava. And Strava is an application that helps you track your runs, your cycling activities, or your biking activities, your walks, your swims, any physical activity, if you will. It can help you track it. The reason this application actually stands out from the rest, because there's plenty of apps out there that do that, is the insights and analytics that it comes with. It really tells you how you're progressing over time and how you're improving over time based on the activity levels that you put into it. How your heart rate is changing or is improving over time, and how does that impact your fitness level. I really love it. It's helped me. It helped me gamify fitness within my daily routine, given that we're all overwhelmed with a lot of stress. It's hard to prioritize exercise, and we kind of most of us at least tend to spend our time with stress, reducing stress through eating, binging in front of TV and so forth. What Strava helps you with is it really gamifies that and makes it more of a game to exercise and get fit and get better. So highly recommend it. So that's an app that takes care of your physical health. Mental health is really, really important as well. And one of my favorite apps is Calm. And there are other alternatives out there, like Headspace, for example, is another great application. But the reason I love Calm is that it incorporates meditation through visualization. And since a lot of us are cooped up in our apartments and our homes right now, visualizing meadows or leaves with flowers and trees and suns and breeze is something that actually proven by science that reduces stress in us, even if we're not experiencing that firsthand, even if we're just listening to someone describing the setting or reading someone expressing the setting in writing. It impacts us in a very positive way and helps us with stress and anxiety. Highly recommended. Great program. Very soothing voices that they use to create the narrative and describe the setting that you're in. Highly recommended. And then another application, this is really not an app, it's more of a hack. It's more of a life hack that I've come to utilize all the time, even before the COVID situation that we're in. I've been using the timer on my watch. And if you don't have to have an Apple Watch. If you have any smartwatch, they all have timers in them. Even your phone has a timer in it. The reason this is really important is because timers help remind you of things that you need to do at certain intervals. So for example, washing your hands. So it's recommended by the CDC that you wash your hands every 2 hours. You don't even have to think about it anymore. Just set your timer to go off every 2 hours, and you can repeat it, you can reset it, or you can stop it. But every 2 hours, it will ring or vibrate or buzz, and that will be your mental cue to go wash your hands. I've always been using it to drink water. I'm horrible at drinking water. Look at me, drinking coffee. I'm a coffee drinker nonstop. Like, I don't know how many cups of coffee I drink, which is not good, right? I just need to always remember drinking water. So I have a reminder or an alarm on my watch that goes off every 20 minutes. And every 20 minutes, it reminds me, hey, you just need to drink some water. And actually, over time and over a number of weeks, that helped me tremendously staying hydrated and also feeling good, because it dilutes all the caffeine I keep consuming that just puts me on edge. So highly recommending the timer functionality either in your phone or in your smartwatch to help you keep track of things that you need to do frequently. So those are the three main applications I highly recommend for everyone to use out there to take care of your physical health, your mental health, and to remind yourself to do things that you should be doing on a frequent basis. Now let's talk about staying productive. The first application, because most of my audience here are in the maintenance and reliability industry, obviously Upkeep, and I'm not pitching Upkeep because I work at Upkeep. I honestly believe, and I use Upkeep at home as well, if you want a simple, very streamlined app, if you will, to help you manage all your maintenance needs at home, or in the office, or your plant, you could use Upkeep. One of the great things that we offer is our sensors product. Especially during this time, sensors will actually help you get data out of your plants, out of your factories, without having a person or someone in there to collect that data. So it can work, especially with the context that we live in right now, which is social distancing and less people in a physical space. Sensors could help provide a ton of value as well. So Upkeep is great if you're in this industry. But Centric is great because for me, I'm completely clueless when it comes to like fixing things at home, right? I'm the last person to do anything. And what I found, having spending a ton more time at home than I normally do, is that I have no idea how things work at my house. And what I love about Centric is something that I just discovered by chance, is that you can actually point it at anything like a faucet or a blender or a dishwasher, take a picture of it, and it automatically recognizes it, and it provides you with the manual for it. So it allows you to kind of like look into how it works, and if you need to fix something in it, you can do that. That's something that I use it, not frequently, but every once in a while, at least I have a peace of mind that there is an application out there that can actually provide some insights for me to help me work with it, work with that piece of equipment that's in front of me. But if you're someone who's handy, who fixes things in their homes, this is a great app for you. And my favorite is ToDoist. ToDoist is an omni-platform, which means it exists on every platform, to-do list manager. And what I love about that is that once you can speak to it, you can write your to-do item, and you can categorize it, and you can set it to a future date, and you can always delay it, if you will, if it hits. For me, it works. It's like a dream. I never miss any to-do item on my list, especially during this time when we're all, again, as I mentioned, preoccupied and overwhelmed with a ton of things, things will get dropped. This helps you minimize the number of things that do get dropped. So those are the applications that I would like to share from my own experience that have helped me in the past deal with productivity and health and staying health. But at the same time, I highly recommend that if you don't feel like you want to be productive or you can be productive, don't be productive. It's okay. It's okay to just sit around the house and do nothing for a day. I think we should allow ourselves to feel those things and to be bored and to be, non-productive for a little bit. This is all part of our being, dealing with the situations and the stresses that we're in, and it's okay to do these things. That's just a reminder for everyone that even though these applications are there to help you stay active and stay productive, it's really the most important thing is to really listen to your situation, to your body, but also to your mind and how you feel, and just acknowledge that and move forward. Before I leave you guys, I just want you to remember that mindset is more important than circumstance and has the ability to overcome and manage our circumstance. And we're all here, we're all still breathing, which means that our story is still unfolding. So with that, I thank you for your time today, and I wish you guys all the best. And if you have any questions, please send them my way. I'm happy to answer them. Back to you, Victoria.
Thank you, Ish. That was fantastic and so helpful. I know I have written down a bunch of the apps that you recommended, and I'll be downloading those later, especially the Todoist and the Centrics and Kava. I'm looking for a new meditation app, so thank you so much. That was incredibly helpful and encouraging, and I'm so grateful that we have you as a vice president of engineering and product. It's wonderful to have you on board and have such an emotionally intelligent person running that department. And it's so obvious just from what you just presented today. So thank you very much. And thank you folks for joining us today. We're always rooting for our customers, and we're rooting for you, and constantly encouraging you all. And like Ish said, good or bad, it's hard to say, that there's still a future ahead of us, and we should continue to look towards it. So thank you very much, Ish. Thank you folks for joining us.
Yeah.
A lovely day.
Thank you, guys.